Our guest in today's episode is Shayla Height. Shayla is a seasoned entrepreneur and corporate veteran with over 25 years of experience. She is the creator of WTF Mama, a bold comic series starring Nanita, an unapologetic 85-year-old widow tackling life with humor and grit. Shayla has recently launched an 80-page WTF Mama book through Kickstarter, introducing readers to Nanita's outrageous world. Her second venture, Full Bloom Savage, is a conversational menopause streetwear brand empowering women to embrace their journey with humor and style. Launching in February 2025, the brand features 100% cotton wrinkle resistant, sweat wicking pieces that challenge outdated menopause narratives. Through these ventures, Shayla redefines entrepreneurship, celebrating individuality and resilience while inspiring bold self expression. So great to have you on the show today. Thank you for being here, Shayla.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about our conversation.
And I have to say, I find your cartoon series, WTF Mama, and the line Full Bloom Savage absolutely brilliant because they blend humor and maybe some shock with wisdom and empathy. I'm so curious to know what sparked you to create the cartoon series and the streetwear line.
Well, WTF Mama came first, and it really was characters that I'd created. Well, they're based on real people. So these are women who raised me, grandmother, mom, aunts, um, and they all are outspoken and all very, unapologetic about who they are, and speak freely about all manner of things, which is really where the title came from, because that's what it makes you say, like when you hear these things or your grandma's doing things. um and so I just wanted to honor that journey in terms of just being unapologetically who they were. When I think about just the journey of being a woman in this country, a woman of color, and how there is usually a path for you in terms of how you can show up in spaces. And these are women that would, they would take up space. There was no shrinking, there was no hiding. Um, and it was very interesting to have other types of conversations as you go out into the world, go to college, and it would be like, your grandma talks like that, like yours doesn't, right? Because you have no idea, right? You have no idea. You just think this is what is happening in a lot of people's families. But when you talk to other people, it's not, especially when, like, my grandmother was, and her sisters, they were born in the 20s, and in Oklahoma of all places. It really wasn't a place for a lot of, forward thinking or opportunity. But what they did is they took the space they had and they made it, something really amazing. And so that, and having a lot of fun telling those stories. The Full Bloom Savage came later, but it was really like my journey through menopause, and having this and having these thoughts about, there's so much negativity. It's almost like you're a victim. Like, that's at least how it came across to me. Like, oh, this is terrible. And people are like, this is hell. And I wasn't having that extreme of an experience in that way. Don't get me wrong. I have hot flashes every day. I might have a hot flash while we're talking, right? And so you are having these symptoms, but also there are benefits. Also, there's like, yay, period, or yay, I don't have to worry about birth control, or what, just things that come up for women that we just think about, and there's a freedom to it. And a freedom in this. I felt like I was joining the wise women guild, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm older, I'm solidly older now. And I liked it a lot. And I thought there has to be other women who are wanting to feel empowered about this instead of feeling terrible all the time. And just the education or the information you may or probably didn't get, right, from your mom or from your grandma, because it was like nobody talks about it. And so I just assumed at one point or another that you're going to get a beard, or you're going to, it's all these terrible things that people's stories connected to menopause and connected to women losing their minds and connected, to all these things. And it's not that the medical establishment doesn't need to catch up, because they do. It's not that people need to be much more educated about what's happening from a medical professional standpoint, but also like understand what's happening with your body. But it could also be this space of celebration, just like with WTF Mama, just like that, right? It's celebrating being unapologetically you. This is celebrating this. And it's not a short thing, it's years. Menopause goes on for years. And
Hmm.
so I don't want to feel bad about the changes that are happening to my body. I want to celebrate because I'm still alive, right? If you're not going through it, then there's also, there's another factor. It could be possibly that you're no longer here. And so I'm glad to be here. I want to be here. And so just wanting to arm people with a way to, I don't know, fight back with a little bit of humor, a little bit of sass, as they go through their day.
Yes, and redefining what it means to be on this journey as women in a different way than how it's been traditionally characterized in society.
Yeah. And taking like it is for me the larger question of you defining who it is you are,
Mm.
right? So you can decide. This is all about your mindset and how you feel about the situation. And you can decide this is terrible. You can decide whatever you want. But if you want some tools, or you want some, a cool shirt that says, I am embracing this. I have decided that this is an entrance into the next chapter of my life. I always think about one of the things for Full Bloom Savage is, menopause is the end of a chapter. It's not the end of the book, right? There's so many more adventures to be had. And that's what I want people to feel like, when I want women to feel like that, instead of thinking, oh, well, this is the end. Like, you're not old. You're just getting started. Um, and that was the thought behind like all of this, wanting women to embrace who they are, and stand up for yourself. Like, think, I'm looking good today, or think, oh, it wasn't a great day, but I, I'm still okay, right? Tomorrow the battle begins anew. Whatever you want.
So I'm curious for you, how does WTF Mama and Full Bloom Savage reflect your own leadership philosophy?
Well, it definitely reflects authenticity. I'm a big believer in that. I think certainly earlier in my journey, my leadership journey, at the beginning, you have this ideal, maybe the sanitized version might be a pinch of robotic, um, who's just parroting what you think a leader should be and do and say. And the truth is, people don't really respond to that. They respond to humanity. They respond to vulnerability. They respond to you saying, I don't know, but we gonna find out, right? Like,
Hmm.
and realizing that, and realizing what I respect in leaders, what I respond to also, because I have leaders too. So you're thinking like, well, what speaks to me? What resonates with me? And it's authenticity and being your full self. And sometimes I think that's also, people take it in you should endeavor to be professional all the time, but who you are as a person, like, people can benefit from that, from your perspective. I tell that to people who aren't leaders. Like, you have something to offer. You have something that maybe someone hasn't seen before, or thought no one's considered before. You don't have to necessarily, like, that is also leadership, even if the title doesn't necessarily, um, isn't with you yet. And when I think about WTF Mama, when I think about the women who inspire it, they were leaders. They might not have been corporate titans, but they led. Like, these women, and there's so many of them. Like, for example, a lot of people say, well, there's one in every family. I got this one aunt. I got about 9 women that have been melted down to make the characters. And these women led. Like, Was my father around? Yes. Was my grandfather around? Yes. And there and present, lived in the home and everything. But my grandmother and my mom and my aunts and all this stuff, they ran things, they made the decisions. So it only until I got into other places in the world did it occur to me that women were always in charge, right? Because growing up, women were in charge. Women made the decisions. There was enough of them too. Like, no, we're not gonna unless we agree. Like if we agree with what the man suggested, sure, we'll go ahead and do that. But if we don't want to, we're not going
Mhm.
to, because we're gonna do something else. And
Mhm.
so that inspiring, like just the authenticity, the being able to make choices and decisions, living out loud. And sometimes it's not like everything that they did or every decision that they made was on the money, right? But they
Mhm.
had the courage to make the decision and own it. Like, well, that didn't work out. We're going to try something else, kind of thing. And that's definitely part of the story, part of the characters, is them leading themselves. And I need to she's 85. She's lucky enough to be blessed with her, all of her faculties. She drives a 1967 Chevy Chevelle. She's a badass. And she's still out there, even as an 85-year-old woman, like making decisions and saying, hey, I'm in charge, or being comfortable and in touch with her sexuality, like all of the things, because she's like, this is me. It's not even, and it's not even that consideration, like, here's how I am as a leader, and here's how, what I mean? It's like, this is me. I'm in
Mhm.
charge. And I'm
Mhm.
taking ownership of my space. I'm leading myself through my life and not waiting for somebody to, figure it out for me either.
Mhm. And when you think about those values that came up in your family life, how does that inform the way that you lead others now?
There's a directness in that, where like my mother would just tell me I was full of she would just tell me, she would just like there that and that as a result, that's my love language, like directness. I don't like the coy, let's read between the lines. I do like, hey, I didn't like that, or you hurt my feelings, or just say what it is. But I find that that isn't necessarily a trait that exists everywhere. I know people are worried about, I don't want to hurt your feelings, that kind of thing. But when I lead, or in my roles as leaders, especially when I need to give feedback to someone um about something to improve, I just speak pretty frankly, whether it's me saying, hey, I think you got a PR problem, because sometimes that's what it is, like your reputation precedes you and it's not in a great way. Then we go to the strategy. It's not just I'm giving you this information and, oh, too bad for you, you have a terrible reputation or you can't get along with people. But then now we go to the strategy. But you need to start seeing, or my favorite question to ask people from a leadership perspective is, and it's a question I ask myself, is this helping you? Like, it's what, you want to be right, or you want to be a promotion. If you want to, if people aren't, what you're being asked to do or what you're being asked to consider doesn't go against your, moral fiber, you know what I mean? Are this the hill you want to die on? Think about this, because you got a plan. You're trying to get here, you're trying to get on this project, you're trying to get, but it's like, I want to do this big thing, but I keep bumping elbows with somebody, and you could just walk away. Like, you could let it go. You could, for as an example, right? You could just decide, I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to have this back and forth with this person, simply because it's not helping me. There are things to fight for. And if you decided this is a thing to fight for it. But you have to ask yourself, like, is this helping me on the way to where I'm trying to be? Is this something, or is this hampering me from getting that kind of thing? So it's like in leadership, being very direct, with humor, because that's, clearly how I like to move through
Yeah.
life, usually is
Yeah.
a lot of humor. And people usually respond to it because I'm coming from a good place. Like, I want to help you. That's why we're going to make a strategy as to how we're going to fix this, how we're going to, And it's me letting them know, again, with the directness and the transparency, I'm in these conversations. I'm in the talent conversations. I'm in the calibration conversations where I can hear what's being said about you. We need to think that through. Maybe I can't give you verbatim, right? Because that's closed, but I'm telling you, it's why you're wondering, like, why can't I get the promotion? Or why did I not get that? Or because there you have these things where you keep having these situations where it's not looking good for you, right? And so let's think about how we're going to approach it. Let's think about, and let's work together. I'm going to partner with you to make things better. But that directness certainly has been a hallmark of my childhood.
There's a directness, but there's also a sense of respect there. I think people are responding to this idea of they're telling me what I need to know, and at the same time, they're doing it because they care about me. And as you know, at the end of the day, people want to be cared for. They want people to value the contribution that they are providing to a team, to a project, to an organization. So having that kind of support is really important. In fact, in a lot of our leadership development programs, we talk about Kim Scott's radical candor, which is exactly what you're talking about here. It's challenging directly and also caring personally at the same time. And it's such an incredible combination because people are more willing to also hear you when they believe that you care about them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true for me too, right? It's definitely true. And I usually explain to people, I want you to win. Like that's all we're trying to do. Because, let's say in the corporate space, it's like, this is not a soup kitchen. This is a for-profit enterprise, right? And you're also a for-profit enterprise and you're selling a service and you have these goals and you have things you want to do. I want you to get them. Like it doesn't do anything for me, not for you not to rise, right? Like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
really, that's going to help me. It doesn't. It helps me when you win. It helps me seeing you win. It gives me personal satisfaction. Um, and so let's figure out how you can win and reframing that as and hopefully moving it from the personal or they don't like me or we're gonna have a strategy. We're gonna have a strategy. We're gonna have a strategy about the PR. We're gonna strategy if the work is the problem, is that strategy is communication. Like that's how we're going to help you win and start having you think it through from a strategic point of view instead of instead of the people don't like me. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
I hear you saying we, not I, not you, but we. And
Mhm.
that makes a difference as well because now they think you're on my side. We are a team.
And we're accountable. Like to each other because
Mhm.
we're going to talk about this plan. I'm expecting the other person's input. Like, what do you think? And I'm expecting you to execute, but you also are expecting me to provide additional feedback or because this is a continued coaching thing, right? It's
Mhm.
not just we're going to have this one conversation and then oh the light bulb has gone off and then you do everything you need to do, you know what I mean? Because this is a mindset shift usually when
Mhm.
in these the context of these types of conversations it's the you have to shift your mind about how you're thinking about what's happening.
Mhm.
So it is we because now since I've taken the time to have this conversation with you, now I'm investing in your success. I want you to be successful. And usually I love a turnaround story. I've had that experience as a manager, as a leader, as a coach, where they were about to get asked to seek excellence elsewhere. and they got it. They heard what I was saying. They could see the writing, they could see the strategy, they could see how they were in their own way, and then they started handling things different. It was so beautiful to see. It took about a year because reputations aren't undone. Are especially when you have a bad reputation, it's very, difficult in terms of making it change to something positive. But the person kept going. They kept going and they stopped whining and they said, because there was a lot of that too, like, oh, and they're complaining and they complain to other people, and then that's getting back to people, and and they just completely changed. They changed their own game. And it was like, Oh yeah, this is the stuff, right? This is the stuff. And being super excited for them to, then get promotions and then get the role they actually want. And then, you know what I mean? Do all the things and hopefully continue with that. Like, don't go back to this. Don't go back to what doesn't work. Think about, well, what will work? Well, what's the landscape? Who are the players? And really be intentional about what you're doing.
Well, helping them to prioritize and also figure out what's really important to them. What do they want to accomplish now? What do they want to accomplish in the next 3 months, 6 months, and the next year or so? And having a clear picture of what that is so that you can create the right steps, the right milestones in order to achieve that.
Exactly. And what skills do you need? Because whatever thing you might have named something and said, well, I'd like that, but your skills aren't commensurate with that role because everything has a certain skill level. In entrepreneurship, you need to keep building skills to be able to, scale your business and, do all these things. And so, then it becomes a question, am I willing to do the work to upskill?
Mhm. So challenges, I think, are always abound. You're talking about a lot of them now when it comes to leadership. When you come up against perhaps a conflict or something that is really difficult, how do you navigate that?
I try to do a step back. It is me just assessing in terms of my reaction. How am I going to approach it? It's the same things I'm telling people about being strategic. How is this helping you? Maybe the way you like
Mhm.
to respond. If we were in a different environment, is that going to help you here? It's trying to consider the other person's perspective and it maybe as a why. I do like to assume good intention. I don't go around assuming people are trying to do something or try or mean to say something, that they just, are expressing themselves. Because to be honest, like as a direct person, I need grace too, because sometimes, the directness, maybe it doesn't always land in a great way, or even when I'm saying it with what I think is love and care, but somebody else's life experience, it just feels harsh to them. Um, and so trying to extend the grace I hope to get in different spaces. But that's really like, let's think about this because I haven't had too many like I guess argument conflicts is usually like personality. It's personality, and let's have a conversation. And usually that when people explain, like I'm explaining where I'm coming from, the other person explains where they're coming from. But if that doesn't work, I usually avoid, avoid, avoid. I don't have to fool with you, then I won't, or I'll keep it to a minimum. But most of it has been resolved through just regular adult conversation and communication.
As you reflect upon your leadership, what parallels can you draw between how you engage in your corporate work and how you lead as the creator of WTF Mama and Full Bloom Savage?
That's a good question. I hmm, the parallels have to have a lot to do with women. And I mean that in that there was certainly a time in my corporate life where there were 7 women leaders. Like there was there were men, but there were 7 women leaders, managers and senior managers at a time. And it has been not 100% because there's definitely some men who have mentored and coached and really like rooted and cheered me on. But the relationships with the women in my on my team at that period of time um have been invaluable, and they've been relationships that have continued even as my role changed or I moved to a different part of the company, that they still continue whether people left the company, right, and still continue. It's those fortifying relationships where women have your back, women are rooting for you, women do a pull aside and say, hey, you need to think about this. It's that candor and honesty, with a hug, with love, with celebration, of each other. And WTF Mama about all these strong women, who are, it's not necessarily, I mean, because they're related to each other. So it's not necessarily, every day is a picnic, but it is, as the creator of it, it's the celebration of women and those relationships and your relationship with one another, with yourself. Um, and the same with, Full Bloom Savage is celebrating this particular period in a woman's life. It is the celebration, it's a triumph. It is like owning your power. And it's so very powerful. I could feel it even in the corporate setting where we had this group of women, and one of the guys was like, well, the next hire, we want to keep this diverse, so the next hire needs to be a guy. We really make you that nervous? Is it just that it's just too many, right? Because in this company there's no shortage of white men. You have this small part of this huge company that has 7 female leaders in it, and we're kicking butt and taking it. Like, it is, we got it. We got it. Boom, 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 boom. And then, people are getting so nervous and somehow now worried about diversity. It's too many women in this very tiny, tiny boutique area. And it always, it made me laugh then, made me roll my eyes then, but it made me laugh because it's like, we are powerful. Women are extraordinarily powerful, especially when we work together, especially when we build each other up. Um, and it's hopefully a thread, not just through that, but through my life, in terms of the relationships that I have, what I offer to other people in terms of that empowering, high-fiving, I see you. Um, and maybe as a Gen Xer, it's like, and before, like, we're always positioned to be in competition with one another, and we're positioned to be, somebody took your man, or there's not enough of, whatever you want left gone, or it's just competition. Even in the, well, who wore it best? Like, seriously? Clothing on 2 different bodies, on 2 different, even when you look at that, like the way it drapes, the way it, why can't we all be like, we're all badasses? Why can't we all be like, we're all slaying, and I'm going to help you slay, and I'm going to high five you, and I'm going to, oh girl, I know someone who can help you do da 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 da, instead of this thing. And that's the thread, because that's been my experience from that world. And certainly as these brands continue to grow, that's what I want to do. Like Full Bloom Savage, I'm employing a young artist who is my daughter's best friend, a young woman. And it's like, I want to continue with that, and being able to bring people on. WTF Mama, there are, women artists also working on the comic and working, with that. So it's like, that's, I want to pay it forward. That's what I'm itching to do, and always itching to do, is to pay it forward and to offer the same kindness and support to everybody, but especially to women, that has been offered and so lovingly offered to me.
A real supportiveness through sisterhood.
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, what's next for WTF Mama and Full Bloom Savage?
What's next is definitely the Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter for WTF Mama. It's something new to me, but my husband, his name is Anthony Height. He actually is a comic book artist. He's done work for Marvel, he's done work for DC. He has his own book called Midnight Tiger, and he is helping me think through, like, how does this work, because I'm newer. Like, I've read comic books, I enjoy, and certainly enjoyed his work, but me making a comic book was something that was new to me. And so him explaining kind of, Kickstarter is where people go to see new talent. Kickstarter is where people go to pre-order books, they don't maybe go to the comic book store because there's only so many things your local comic book store will have. So now you have this opportunity to really see a variety. And so this type of story is fairly singular. Like there isn't any comic books that star an 85-year-old Black grandma, right? There just aren't. And so it's an opportunity to hopefully widen the audience because we go to conventions. We're going to go to in March. We're going to go to Emerald City in Seattle and, sell the books and talk to people. And so that's really what's next is the Kickstarter, and then a fuller story of WTF Mama, where Nanita actually, she blows her house up. She blows her house up because she puts a burrito. Her favorite food is breakfast burrito. She loves them, and she put a foil covered breakfast burrito in one of those old like Marie Callender pie tins, just like an old lady,
Oh.
right? But she put it in a microwave instead of the oven because she's 85, right? And she blows up her house, and then she has different adventures with different characters. And so that's a book that's also will be coming out in 2025 later in the year, and that'll be a much more fuller story because the current set of books is like little vignettes of Nanita and her deciding to repurpose a back massager into her pleasure aid. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just a little story. It's a true story too about, because my grandmother really did do that, and we called her the boyfriend, and it's a whole story. And it's these little, vignettes in the current set of, WTF Mama books. So I want to expand because I see it as an animation, right? So I wrote a script that was like, this is a cartoon that goes, with a character that has to go through different obstacles to finally get to an end, and she finds a place to stay. But she's fighting it because she's 85, and people were like, Mom, you need to live with me. She's like, no, I don't have to live with you, right? I'm driving my Chevelle and I live independently, kind of thing. So that'll be for that. And then for Full Bloom Savage, we're pretty new. And so it'll just be the launch. Like, let's get this fully launched, get all of the designs finalized and manufactured. So that's super, like, I'm super excited about that and can't wait to have additional, like, more conversations with other women online, et cetera, about their journey, about their menopause journey. And it's so funny because the two are different but related, that people were telling me about their menopause journey at the different conventions when I was
Wow.
for WTF Mama. Like, one lady was talking about how she finally got on HRT and it changed her life, right? She got hormone replacement. And then somebody else was talking about like how their period kept coming. I mean, it was just, I'm having these conversations, and this is back to what I was saying earlier about women. Like, when we talk to one another, you know what I'm saying? They're not going to, even if my husband had been drawing WTF Mama, I mean, he draws it, but if he had been the person that's standing there, I don't think they would have told him. They
Probably
wouldn't have.
not. I
No,
would agree with
because
that.
you see another woman who gets it. Like, I've had people like tear up on me, like talking
Mm.
about the power of these stories, the power of, like, and them remembering things about their own, maybe long lost or a well-loved relative, that kind of thing. And so I've had so many powerful conversations, even about menopause through WTF Mama. And I really hope to have additional like powerful conversations in the context of Full Bloom Savage, and people owning it, like owning this part of their journey and owning the space that they live in, and in a way, like, just surrender to it. There's nothing you're going to be able to do, right? Like,
Mhm.
you can't not pick it, or they haven't come up with medication. Like, I know they have medication now where, like, from a birth control standpoint, where you're not having a period, you don't have a period for a year or whatever. I don't know how I feel about that, but but they have it. That they don't really have a pill that says you can completely skip menopause, right? You can skip the hot flashes, you can skip the brain fog and the heart palpitations. So if you can surrender to it, then that's like step one of being feeling, and being empowered because it's not really
Mm.
running you. And those are the types of conversations I hope to have, that people felt empowered to wear, or cheeky designs, wear things that, are announcing that they're in menopause also. That's what it's gonna
Mhm.
say, right?
Mhm.
And feel good about that. And that's what's next. Like if at the end of 2025 all of that happened, I would be a really, really happy camper.
Well, I'm sure 2025 is going to deliver, and I'm excited to see how things evolve. So, as we wrap up the show, I like to ask the guests to answer one advice question and one fun question. Let's start with the advice question. If you were a fortune cookie of wisdom, what would your message say?
It would say the best thing to do is to be yourself because everyone else is always already taken.
Hmm.
It sounds easy. It's so hard, right? Because most of the messaging is usually like whatever you're offering, that people don't want it, or that's not enough, or something. But truly, like being yourself and standing in your truth, it may not feel comfortable at first, but people are attracted to that. People, like, they love that. They love, and we all have felt that about people. Like, they just don't care about who they're, it's not that they're not nice, it's not that they're not credible, it's not. But when somebody is like, I don't really care, think about me, this is how I show up, in this very authentic way,
Hmm.
that also feels, what you said before, that feels respectful because you respect me enough to show up as yourself and not some representative version of you think I want.
Mm.
Right? You
Mm.
respect me and yourself enough to just be, and trying to treat me like an adult, like I can handle, I got whatever you're throwing out there, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I wish more people would just not be afraid and just be yourself,
Mhm.
because everybody else is being themselves, or you hope, but it's so much better for you. Like, it's better over here. Being your
Mhm.
authentic self.
Yeah. Showing up as your real you versus the you that you think others want you to be.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Well, now for the fun question. If you could have any fictional character as a best friend, who would it be and why?
If I could have any, let's see, I think it was a toss up between two fictional characters, but I want to be friends with Iron Man.
Iron Man. Okay, why Iron
Yeah.
Man?
Because he knows how to have fun. He's seriously smart. Like, he's seriously smart, and likely, from a science perspective, I probably get bored. Like, don't explain to me. Let's just do something. Like, you want to make a rocket? Don't explain to me how you're going to make the rocket. Just like, let's do it. But he clearly knows how to have fun. He clearly doesn't take himself too seriously. And I know that also, gets him into trouble, just as a character and his storyline and that kind of thing. But he just seems fun. Like, and he'd be one of those friends, like, you have to see him quarterly. You can only hold on to a meteor for so long, right? Before you get charred. But oh, what a ride. You know what I mean? He's the friend with the wild weekend in Vegas. And then I haven't seen you for 3 months. First of all, my kidneys need to recover, right? Like, that kind of thing. And he just seems like he would be that. And also, like, he's the rich, crazy friend. You know what I mean? So we're gonna go, you French meal, we're gonna go to Paris in my private jet, or we're gonna do you know what I mean? And he's charming all these people, and it's like exhausting, and I haven't slept. But I always thought, from the first movie I saw, because that's how I got introduced before comic books was the movie. And I thought, man, this guy looks fun. Like he just looks like he'd be a lot of fun, like to hang out with. So that's what
I like it. We all need more fun in our lives. So I like it. I think that would be a fun thing to do is hang out with somebody like that. I have to figure out who that's going to be for me. I'm not sure yet. Yeah, I'll have to think about that. Well, this has been such an inspiring and empowering conversation. Thank you, Shayla, for joining us on the Expressions of Leadership podcast.
thank you. Thank you, Michelle, for having me. And I was so excited when you asked me. So I just feel very honored. So thank you.